Did you hear the story about the white man who was nearly lynched by a mob because he was in love with a black woman? I'm Te-Erika, the author of Dallas, Texas Black History Uncensored. And in 1892, P.F. Miller was a shoemaker living in East Dallas when he was hanging around the block and he spotted Maddie Anderson and fell in love. And she liked him back. But this caused a problem because Maddie was already married to a black man. And there were laws against interracial relationships that carried fines and social stigma. This was a dangerous love to experience for the both of them, but they didn't care. Maddie left her husband to go and live with P.F. Miller, and then the neighbors began to talk. The police showed up, slapped him with a fine. He paid it and was like, "Leave us alone." He didn't seem to care about the cost. He just wanted his queen. When the police realized that their financial punishment didn't break up the interracial relationship, they showed up again. But this time, their weapons were drawn. I don't know where Maddie was hiding, but as the police barged into P.F. Miller's home, he pulled out his weapon and started shooting. He popped one officer in the ear, and the other officer he shot in the back and in the head. Within 10 minutes, the second officer was dead. Neighbors heard the commotion and started yelling for Miller to come out, but he refused to surrender. Miller's white neighbors took it upon themselves to surround his home and coat it with oil. Their plan was to set it on fire. Before the neighbors could set the house on fire, the assistant police chief showed up. His name was Chief Cornwall, and he managed to talk Miller into coming outside. By this time, the entire neighborhood had gathered around, and they were angry at Miller for shooting these white officers because he wanted to be with a black woman. So they grabbed him up, tied him to the back of a horse, and dragged him about 20 feet, all the while throwing stones at him, kicking him, and hitting him in the head with weapons. The police managed to disperse the crowd, pick Miller up, and take him to the county jail, and he was sitting there all tore up. Before the sun even set, a mob of 2,000 people were gathered outside the jail demanding that Miller be released so that they could lynch him. The Dallas mayor named Connor showed up and pleaded with the crowd to stop the threats of violence, but they didn't listen. They were angry and they tried to break the doors down, but they couldn't get in. 5 hours later, well into the evening, the crowd was still there and they were still angry when all of a sudden a thunderstorm popped off. And everybody dispersed and went home. That storm coming out of nowhere was the only thing that saved Miller from that murderous mob. Miller was convicted of murder and sentenced to hang. After spending some time in jail, the judge took pity on him and then later commuted his sentence to life in prison. After serving 15 years in prison, he was pardoned and then released. But he never got to love Maddie Anderson the way he wanted to. I'm Te-Erika with the T. Follow for more Black history.